All right, so today I'm gonna do like a climbing shoe review, which, disclaimer, I have first of all, a low volume foot. I also have a low volume heel. So my foot isn't necessarily narrow, but it's just like the top part is really low. So if like something has a really high arch to it, kind of, it'll be really baggy on the top. So the shoes that fit my foot won't necessarily fit somebody else's foot, like if you have a wider foot or a really narrow foot. But I'm going to talk mostly about stiffness, longevity, and the heel on these shoes, which are like things that I think. Stiffness, it can vary in what you like for what kinds of rocks, but like the heel and longevity are two things that I think are really important in a shoe. So I'm gonna start with a shoe that is like a little different from a lot of the stuff that I wear. This is the Unparalleled Uprise. So I'll bring it close so you can see. So it's got almost upturn to it. It's a really stiff shoe. Like there's almost no give to the rubber. Velcro, I love Velcro. So these I got specifically for vert climbing. I think a lot of times on really long vert routes, I would have trouble at the ends. My shoes would like be bending on the feet and you just don't get as much power. And on really, really small edges too. Like you want that stiffness to stand on so the power is like generated through your whole toe box, not just like the one toe that's like bending on there, if that makes sense. So these shoes I wouldn't pick for the gym at all. I think you can wear them in the gym and they'd totally be fine, but they're not flexible. So for like volumes, they'd be really tough to climb with. And then like the heel is not necessarily like a good design for performance either. It's got kind of a strange heel. It's like a weird circular type thing, and then like these, which I think if you can hook this tab on some edge, you're going to be locked in, but that's like rare, and I think that's a very specific time that you would choose this shoe. So yeah, I use this for long vert routes, small edgy feet, and I think they can be really great for that kind of stuff. So overall, on a scale of just like general use, I'd probably give these a 6. For vert climbing, I'd give them a 9. I think they're awesome. I think they could be a little more aggressive. They're a little bit too, they don't have enough downturn for me. Longevity wise, I only have had one pair of these. I don't wear them that often, but I think they are a great shoe longevity wise. I haven't seen much falling apart here. I think the heel, my one thing would be maybe this heel would start to peel because I can see signs that it might, but like the Velcro is good. The rubber hasn't worn through at all. So 6 out of 10 on the general scale, 9 on the vert scale. The next shoe I'm gonna go with is another Unparalleled. So this one, I wore one pair of these. They lasted me about a month. So they're not my top choice in shoe just because they don't last very long. And also like they're the most soft shoes I've ever worn. I've never found a shoe softer than this. I think they're so soft that they almost like, it's just like a negative thing, I think. They blow, like by the time you wear them for a couple weeks, they're kind of like a sock. And I think this would be comparable to like some of the new comp shoes that are coming out where they're like super, super soft and like really, really flexible for volume climbing. So they definitely have a purpose for my climbing, which I do a good mix of outdoor and a good mix of just like long sport and bouldering and gym climbing. I think they're too specific and too soft to where they blow through quickly. As far as like shape and design, they're kind of a narrower shoe, and the heel is, I think these heels fit my heel great. They're not super long and skinny, which is good, but they're not wide either. So my heel kind of plops right in and they're pretty good. If you compare this heel to the Uprise, you can see like the difference. So this rubber goes all the way over the top, and that allows you to heel hook on this kind of edge for like if you're heel hooking high, you can kind of lock it in. So the heel is definitely higher performance, and the downturn also higher performance. On a general scale, I'd probably give these a 6 as well. I think some people would really love them if you love a super, super soft shoe. They just aren't for me, I think, but then again, Velcro, love it. All right, let's see. Next, I'm gonna go with one of my favorites. These are looking super haggard. So this is the Instinct VSR. This is like the dark blue version. So there's a light blue version that's women's, and then there's an orange version. And then this is like the VSR version. So these I wore them for about 3 months, which is not that long, generally speaking, and they are wrecked. They have like a hole. They're super crusty, really nasty. But I wore them like relentlessly for 3 months. I wore them outside, inside, probably didn't take them off for hours on end. So that considered, they held up pretty well. I really, really like this shoe. I think I will probably end up getting another pair of these at some point. I love the stiffness of them. They're like, I would consider them like a medium stiff shoe. So they're really like capable of edging. They've got like a nice edge. So for longer sport routes, they're great. They're downturned, which is great for like maybe a little bit slightly steeper. And even for vert, I like a little bit of downturn sometimes. And they've got a single Velcro strap. And the heel, so Scarpa in general, for me, I've found the heel to be a little bit too wide. If you like can compare it to, for example, an Unparalleled heel, like I don't know if you can see in the camera, but the difference is like quite big. Like they're about the same depth-wise heel, but the wideness is different. And that's the one thing about Scarpa that I don't love. I think the width of the shoe is great. They run a little bit narrower, I would say, on the scale compared to like a La Sportiva shoe, but their heel, it just doesn't quite fit my heel. Performance-wise, it's a pretty good heel. There's not much to it. It's got like a classic lip. It's kind of almost too thin, I would say, and maybe like too bulbous, if that makes sense. So like the heel's pretty good, but I would probably give this like a 6 out of 10 on heel scale, honestly. Overall shoe though, I love this shoe. If you want like a medium stiff shoe that's not super, that'll last you like pretty long, I would consider this for sure. On a scale of 1 to 10 of overall, I would give this shoe probably an 8. Yeah, good shoe. Next, I'm going to move on to one of my absolute favorites. So this is a Scarpa Drago. In comparison to the Scarpa Instinct, it's a lot softer. So you can see also too, the toe rubber is a lot more performance based. So this is for like really for toe hooking, which is conducive to indoor climbing, I would say. There are outdoor toe hooks obviously, but more generally indoor climbing. These are also a lot softer than the Instincts, so they're good for like volumes and things like that. They have a very similar heel. I would give it the exact same. I honestly think they might be the exact same heel. And one Velcro strap, which is really nice. The one thing I would say about these is as they break in, they tend to like get pretty baggy and saggy, which I do wear my shoes to death, so I would take that into consideration. I think that I have like most of my shoes get pretty baggy. But these I have loved. I love them so much. I think they're a great shoe. This is the regular version, so there is a low volume version that's white and black, which I have, which I'll review next. But these are just the regular ones. And since I have a low volume foot, that's like the issue. Like you can see this is overlapping in here, which is how I wear it. But they did come out with a new version that takes care of that issue. So the one drawback of these shoes is probably their softness. I think for really long vert climbs, my feet start to get really tired, which I've noticed. And that's why I got a shoe like the Instinct to be able to wear on longer vert climbs, or like the Uprise. So like if you can wear these on long vert climbs, I've done it. It works. It's just you can't edge too well, your feet get pretty tired, and you just lose the power in your toe, especially as you start to sweat. They like bend a lot more, like you can see how flexible they are. So as a general shoe, I 100% give this 8.5 out of 10. I think it beats out the Instinct on my scale. This is if you like soft shoes. But yeah, it's a great shoe. So next, I'm going to review one of my used to be favorite shoes, but one of the OG all-time favorites, Team 510. These are no longer available unless you can find them online somewhere, but the shoe I wore for probably about 6 years. So from the time I was like 12 till I was 18, when I used to compete a lot, and they were great for that. I think as I've grown into more outdoor climbing and like just different styles of climbing, these aren't as versatile as I would like them to be. And I also don't think they fit my foot that great. I have come to realize. I used to think they did. Our team was sponsored by 510, so it's kind of like, of the 510 shoes, this fit my foot the best. But like the heel is super long and narrow, so I always had a bubble at the end. And they're just generally a really narrow shoe, and my foot just isn't that narrow. So like if you compare it to a Drago, you can even see the difference there. And then like with the heel lengthwise, like you can tell there's like kind of a difference there. Which the heel on these, I would also say, I would give it a similar rating to the Scarpa heels. It's great. You can make it work on a lot of things, but it's not a 10 out of 10. It's not a drone heel. But yeah, these are similar closure, one Velcro, which I would say in general, the drawback to Velcro over like a lace is once your shoes start to wear out, the Velcro, like you can cinch it down as much as you want, but sometimes like this part will bag, and that's why like laces can be nice because you can cinch the whole shoe up. But I'm just so lazy. I would not pick a lace shoe. But yeah, these are no longer available, so it's not really that great to review them. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give these 7. I don't think they'd be great for vert climbing and edging because they're so soft, but they'd probably be good for some steep sport and a lot of boulders, I bet. Yeah, I love this shoe. I've always loved it, but it's not my favorite anymore. All right, so yeah, that is all the shoes that I have that I've used in that bin. I'm gonna go grab my shoes that I'm currently using so you can see what I'm into right now. All right, so this is one of the pairs that I currently keep in my climbing bag. So I have a few pairs in there. I'm kind of a stickler for climbing shoes. I like having all different pairs. So this is the Drago low volume. So the regular one, where did I even put that? Here it is. So this is just the regular Drago, yellow and red, and then this is low volume Drago. And like directly comparing them, you can see the difference in width for sure. And that is what I love about this shoe. With the Drago, the original Drago, the top part was super baggy for me, and the heel was also pretty loose. And these fit my foot like a glove. I think just in general, when you're looking for a climbing shoe, you want it to fit like a glove and then stay like a glove. So like some shoes I'll try on and I'll be like, oh, this fits great. And then after like a couple weeks, it stretches out and it's just not a great fit anymore. And this shoe, I will say, has held up amazingly. I needed a little stretch. I think they were quite tight when I first got them. But, ooh, I don't know what's on there. These have lasted me pretty long. I think I've had this pair since Christmas, so probably about 5 months, but I don't exclusively wear these. I would say I wear these probably 50% of the time I climb. So they've lasted pretty long. Longevity wise, I would give these like pretty, like 8 out of 10. I think they're great for a soft shoe. They're just as soft as the Drago, so they're definitely a soft shoe. They're just as soft as the regular Drago. And yeah, I typically wear these. So I found on some slabs, these are great because if I'm not trying to use edgy feet, so like if it's a smeary slab, these are awesome. Some boulders, I really love them, especially up in low cottonwood. I love to wear these. I think they're great on granite. I like them also. I wear them a lot when I climb in the southeast on boulders. I think they're great there too. I like the heel. Again, it's like a little bit like the strip is kind of like small. It's like really not high, so it's not the best heel, but it fits my heel well, so that's good. But the times that I haven't been wearing these as much recently. I'll show you what I have been wearing. They just can be too soft. They really can be too soft. I have started to transition away from softer shoes generally, just because I've been doing so much outdoor climbing. And yeah, once you like start to transition away and like get used to a stiffer shoe, it's hard to keep wearing a soft shoe just because of the power, like you don't get as much power. I think placing your foot with soft shoes is different too. Like when I first started wearing stiffer shoes, I had trouble placing because like with soft shoe, you kind of like smear place, and with a stiff shoe, you just place it on. That makes sense. So that's been something transitioning between this shoe and my stiffer shoe has been interesting. But this shoe, I would definitely give a 9 out of 10. I think it's an awesome shoe. It's super sturdy, doesn't stretch that much, great performance. Love this shoe. The other shoe that I'm currently wearing, which I just got these I probably had these actually maybe a month and a half. I would say maybe 2 months. Is the Solution Comp. This shoe I think is like very popular right now. That's why I got it, because a lot of people have been raving about it. Compared to the regular Solution, it's got a much more high performance heel, which I would put just on par with the Scarpa heel, honestly. This heel for my heel is very wide, like this way, so it's a bit baggy. It's definitely wider than Scarpa's heel, but I think La Sportiva in general is a wider shoe. So if you have a wide foot, this is a great brand to go with. Like you can even see if I compare these two, like look how much narrower the Scarpa is, like especially from the back you can tell. So that's why I was hesitant to get La Sportiva, because I have a narrow-ish foot. It's like medium probably, I would say. But I think that the closure system on these does lock my foot in pretty well, which I'm happy with. I know that this closure system everyone hates because these will break, so the longevity on this shoe is not that great. The rubber, I think though, is awesome. I have been wearing these like in the gym. I've been wearing them outside a lot, and the toe hasn't like worn through. It's worn through a little bit, but for 2 months, that's pretty good. One thing you can notice, there's some like delambing happening. I think that's common on when they do really thin rubber. I don't love that. I think that's something that I try to like avoid when I pick a shoe. Like the Drago, never ever have I dealt with any delambing of any kind on Scarpa shoes. I think they are like the highest quality, in my opinion, climbing shoes. But these shoes, man, I love them. I love them so much. This weekend I was at Wolf Point, and they're just great. They do great on edges, great in pockets. They're really pointy, so they stick right in pockets. They're great inside. They're not the super, they're pretty stiff in the midsole, or sorry, in the toe box. So like if I were to climb volumes, I would definitely use my Dragos over these, but I love these shoes. Something I think that's interesting that I noticed when I first started wearing these over the Dragos, especially up little, is I was slipping a lot, which I think is just rubber constitution difference. So like the way these stick to rock is different. But man, this right now, I would give this a 9.5 out of 10. I don't know what a 10 out of 10 would be. I think these could fit my feet better. On my scale, they could definitely fit my feet better, so that's why they only get 9.5 out of 10. But I love this shoe. I think it's a great shoe. Man, I love this shoe. But yeah, and then the final shoe that I'm going to review is the old Moccasym. So these are like, I've been doing a little bit of trad and a little bit of crack climbing, and these are like the OG trad crack climbing shoe, trad dad shoe right here. I love these. Mine are really old, so they're like super broken in, really soft, and they've lasted forever. I probably had these for like 5 years. I used to speed climb back in my competing days, and so that's where I had these from. And yeah, these are just your classic slip-on. They get looser for sure. They don't really have, if you can't heel hook in them, you can foot jam for days though, let me tell you. So these, just for OG's sake and for crack climbing and for just, I honestly like to train in these too. I think they're great for training because you can practice like really pulling with your feet, and they don't wear through quickly, and they're kind of cheaper. So if you wanted to like train in something like this, that'd be great, especially on board climbing because you don't even use your heels anyways. But yeah, these have to be a solid 9 out of 10. And I saw these, I love these shoes. But yeah, I think that concludes all the shoes that I have. That's quite a bit of shoes. And yeah, I love climbing gear. So like I have a bunch of pairs of shoes, and I've tried a bunch of pairs of shoes. And I think for me, Scarpa is my favorite brand. I love the Solution Comps though by La Sportiva. But in general, La Sportiva is just a little too wide for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.